Is morality relative? Have you heard this before? No moral standards are absolute. What about this one? Hey, that might be right for you, but it's not for me. Or, all cultures have their own values, and what's true for them is true for them, and what's true for us is true for us. So what is it? Is morality relative or objective? In other words, does morality vary? Or in other words, does right and wrong vary from person to person, culture to culture, based on their personal preferences, the way they were brought up, or even the majority opinion? Let's take a closer look at the following 6 points. First, and perhaps most importantly, that school of thought is very inconsistent and self-contradictory. You see, a relativist will announce that no system is absolutely right, but then proclaims that their school of thought is correct. You see, if a relativist says, well, morality is relative to the culture, for example, is that a true statement? Or better yet, is that an absolute true statement? Or is it just subjective? Do you see the contradiction here? If not, let me explain. If a relativist says morality is subjective, but another culture says it's objective, then that statement isn't necessarily true, because the relativist is saying every culture is correct based on their beliefs. But those are two opposite contradictory claims. In other words, the relativist violates his own position by even believing it. Number 2, God is the standard by which everything is judged. Now, God's morality flows from his nature. Therefore, individuals, groups, or even cultures don't have the authority to supersede God's morality. Number 3, moral absolutes are unavoidable. Let me explain. Certain acts are universally recognized as right or wrong. For example, all societies value honesty and condemn torturing babies. I mean, think about it. Think of the outrage that someone would feel if someone tortured a baby. Let's put it this way. Think of a group of convicted felons in prison. No matter what they've done, as soon as someone walks into a prison and those felons find out that that convict has, in fact, raped or even murdered a baby, all of a sudden, in spite of everything they themselves have done, their inner being screams with conviction. It is never safe for a child rapist or murderer in prison. Why? Because even the felons understand there are some lines you just don't cross. They are absolutely wrong. Number 4, relativism produces, well, chaos. I mean, just think about it. Imagine a world in which everyone lived without a sense of absolute right or wrong. No ethical standards. I mean, just think about it. What if your neighbor came over and wanted to, take your possessions? Is that wrong? Absolutely. Well, maybe from their opinion, they thought it would be right, even good for their survival. Well, then you might say, well, okay, that's in our culture, that's not acceptable. You see, we're just minimizing the act. Everyone likes to say, well, if a certain country or culture believes it to be true, then that's good for them and it's relative. It's very easy if you're a relativist to say that, isn't it? Let me give you a better example. Let's assume you live in Canada and you believe that you shouldn't harm a child. Now let's imagine the United States believed that it was okay and subjective, or on a case-by-case basis, it was okay for the individual to decide if they wanted to murder their children. Now that same country, the United States, invades Canada and takes over. Now they're the majority. Does that mean that their belief in hurting or murdering kids is now correct for all Canadians? I don't think so. Just think about Nazi Germany. When the Allies finally conquered them, they were brought to trial, the Nuremberg trials. Did you know that that trial came to a dead halt? Because they basically said, well, we were told what to do and we believed what we were doing was correct based on our worldview. Who are you to come into our country and tell us what's right and wrong? The trial actually shut down. It wasn't until the Allies appealed to a higher authority, basically saying it doesn't matter what you believed. You had an obligation to adhere to this law above human law that says you should not be doing these certain things, these atrocities to other human beings. In other words, they appealed to an objective moral standard. If they hadn't, then Nazi Germany could not have been found guilty. One last thought here. Think of it this way. No matter what side of the fence you lie on, is the following statement true? It is wrong to murder and rape and kill innocent babies. Is it true no matter what you or I or anybody on planet Earth thinks? In fact, if everybody on planet Earth was eliminated, is that statement still true? I think you'll see that the answer is yes, which means there has to be an objective, absolute moral standard above all human subjectivity. And that standard is rooted in God's nature. If you like this video, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to share.